Daily Devotion 17, Luke22. Now the festival of the unleavened bread, which is called the Passover, is approaching. The chief priests and the scribes were looking for a way to put him to death, but they were afraid of the people. Then Satan entered Judas, one of the Iscariot, who was one of the 12 disciples. And he went away, and he discussed with the chief priests and officers how he might betray him and hand him over to them. Then they were delighted and agreed with him to give him money. So he consented and began looking for a good opportunity to betray Jesus to them. Then came the preparation day of the unleavened bread on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. So Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, "Go and prepare the Passover meal for us, so that we may eat it." They asked him, "Where do you want us to prepare it?" He replied, "When you have entered the city, a man carrying a 30 jar of water will meet you. Follow him to the house that he enters, and say to the owner of the house, 'The teacher asks, where is the guest room in which may I eat the Passover with my disciples?' Then he will show you to a large upstairs room, furnished. Prepare the meal there." They left and found it as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover. When the hour for the meal had come, Jesus reclined at the table, and the apostles with him. He said to them, "I have earnestly wanted to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I say to you, I will not eat it again until it is fulfilled with the kingdom of God." And when he had taken a cup, given thanks, and said, "Take this and share it among yourselves. For I say to you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine from now on until the kingdom of God comes." And when he had taken bread and given thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body, which is given to you. Do this in remembrance of me." And in the same way he took the cup after they had eaten, saying, "This cup which is poured out for you is the new covenant in my blood. But listen, the hand of one betraying me is of mine on the table. For indeed the Son of Man is going as it has been determined. But woe to that man by whom he is betrayed and handed over." And they began to discuss among themselves which one of them it might be who was going to do this. Now a dispute also arose among them as to which of them regarded to be the greatest. Jesus said to them, "The king of the Gentiles have absolute power, and lord it over to them. And in those in authority over them are called benefactors. But it is not to be this way with you. On the contrary, the one who is the greatest among you must become like the youngest, and the one leader like the servant. For who is the greater, the one who reclines at the table or the one who serves? It is not the one who reclines at the table, but I am among you as the one who serves. You are those who have remained and stood by me in my trials. Just as my Father has granted me a kingdom, I grant you, that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, that you will sit on the thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Simon, Simon, listen, Satan has demanded permission to sift you like grain. But I have prayed for you, Peter, that your faith and confidence in me may not fail, and you once again have turned your back to me, strengthened and support your brothers in the faith." And Peter said to him, "Lord, I am ready to go with you both to prison and death." Jesus said, "I say to you, Peter, before the rooster crows today, you will deny 3 times that you know me." And he said to them, "When I sent you out without a money belt and sandals, did you lack anything?" They answered, "Nothing." Then he said to them, "But now, he who has a money belt is to take along and his provision bag, and he who has no sword is to sell his coat and buy one. For I tell you that this which is written must be completed and fulfilled in me." And he was counted with the criminals, for that which refers to me has its fulfillment. They said, "Lord, look, here are 2 swords. And he said to them, "Is it enough?" And he came out and went was his habit in the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him. And when he arrived at the place, he said to them, "Pray continuously, so that you may not fall into temptation." And he withdrew from them about a stone's throw, and knelt down and prayed, saying, "Father, if you are willing to remove this cup from me, yet not my will, but always yours be done." Now an angel appeared to him from heaven, strengthening him, and being in agony, he prayed more intently, and his sweat became like drops of blood falling down on the ground. When he rose from prayer, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping from sorrow. And he said to them, "Why are you sleeping? Get up and pray that you may not fall into temptation." While he was still speaking, a crowd came, and the man called Judas, one of the 12, was leading a way for them. He approached Jesus to kiss him, and Jesus said to him, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" When those who were around him saw what was about to happen, they said, "Lord, should we strike with the sword?" And one of them struck the slave of the highest priest and cut off his right ear. But Jesus replied, "Stop, no more of this." And he touched the ear and healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests and officers of the temple and elders who had come out against him, "Have you come out with swords and clubs as you would against a robber? Day after day, when I was with you in the temple, you did not lay hands on me, but in this hour and power of authority and darkness are yours." Then they seized him and led him away and brought him to the house of the Jewish high priest. And Peter was at a safe distance, and they had kindled a fire at the middle of the courtyard and had sat down together. Peter sat among them, and a servant girl, seeing him, and he sat at the firelight, looking intently at him. This man was with him too. But Peter denied it, saying, "Woman, I do not know him." A little later, someone else saw him, and said, "You are one of them too." But Peter said, "Man, I am not." After about an hour had passed, another man began to insist. This man was with him, for he is a Galilean too. But Peter said, "Man, I do not know what you are talking about." Immediately, while he was speaking, a rooster crowed. The Lord returned and looked at Peter, and Peter remembered the word of the Lord, how he had told him, "Before a rooster crows today, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly. Now that the men who were holding Jesus in custody were mocking and ridiculing him and beating him, they blindfolded him and asked prophecy, "Who is it that struck you?" And they were saying many others things against him, blaspheming him. When the day came that the council of elders of the people assembled, both chief priests and scribes, they had led Jesus away to the council chamber, saying, "If you are the Christ, tell us." But he said to them, "If I tell you, you will not believe what I say. And if I ask question, you will not answer. But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the power of God." And they all said, "Are you the Son of God then?" He replied, "It is just as you say." Then they asked, "What further need of testimony do we have? For we ourselves have heard it from his own mouth."